Okay, today we are going to learn CSS. We've learned HTML and how to edit web pages in detail with that. Now we're going to learn CSS. And CSS, if you can think of one word to describe CSS, it's formatting. It's basically used to format web pages in a more efficient way. But let's go ahead and read a little bit more about it. CSS stands for Cascade Style Sheets. That's what it stands for. Now, they're used to define styles of HTML elements. Like I said, it saves a lot of time, and they're stored as CSS files. So, one other important aspect, as you see on the bottom left, CSS uses brackets and not tags. So let me show you an example of how that works. Okay, so here's a bracket. Okay, so here's an example. So H2, you know that's HTML code. Okay, so it uses still the HTML elements like H2, H1, B as in bold, U as an underline, but we can add these like properties like attributes like color, and then you guys know numbers, right? Numbers are a representation of a color, a specific color. If I show you example online, let's say I just put in HTML colors, and then you'll get a sheet showing all the different colors that are used. So notice the color codes. Okay, so if you enter in these specific color codes, then you'll get it. Now if you enter in just blue, you'll get like just a normal color blue. For example, right here color, if you just put blue, it'll just be normal blue. But let's say you want a specific shade. That's where you want a specific number code or number and letter combination code. Okay, so there's two ways you can do it. First, you can insert it separately into its own CSS file. And when you create a CSS file, okay, you just open up your text edit. In this case, here's one of my past students did. Okay, this is what really extensive, well, not too extensive, but one may look like. But when they save it, again in text editor or notepad, just go to file, save as, and you just save it as whatever you want, like format or cookies or whatever you want, and then .css, like that's the key. Okay, just .css when you save it, and then save it as a CSS file. When you open it, at least on a Mac, it'll open in dash code, and you can see in red, it picks out the different attributes, and then in the bold is like the details of your specific range of color, or in this case color. Alright, so there's two ways. One is a separate file like I just showed you, and the second way is to put the CSS tags right into the head of an HTML file. So let me show you how that's done. So let's say this is an HTML page, like home.html. Okay, so you know you have HTML, you have your head, and then we're going to put style type equals and then text / CSS. Okay, that's the key, because you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to put in a CSS style right here. Okay, so it's going to read it as a CSS attribute. Now, B, what does B stand for? Bold, yeah. So it's going to say, okay, whenever I use the bold HTML tag, it's going to be Arial font, 14 point, okay, maybe not 12 like the default or 10, 14, and it's going to be the color red. Okay, so you can assign all those attributes to when you use B. And then you close the style, and then you have your title, close the head. Then we have our body, and then in our body, see, I enjoy developing my skills, and then close B. You see that? So what is that going to be, that sentence? It's going to be Arial, it's going to be 14-point font, it's going to be bold, and it's going to be red. Okay? So let's say I bold all my headers. Like whenever I have a heading, I bold it. So I have like 5 headers. Maybe I'm talking about myself, like about. My skills, my hobbies, my experience, like all different things. And I bold each of these. And then I want like it to be red, okay? Well, you know here, if I change the color red to green, it's going to change every time there's a bold, it's going to change it from red to green. Okay? So that's why it's a really big time saver, is because it's all linked. But all of this is in one HTML slot. Let me show you guys how HTML reads. First it starts here, HTML says, hey, this is HTML. And then, oh, this is the head part. Whoa, we're going to do some CSS today. And then it's going to read the bold and, oh, they want the color red and stuff. So it's basically, I think of it as like a painter. It's going to paint these format onto our body information. And if you don't have it yet, whenever you enter in B, it'll automatically paint it in. Okay? But let's say we don't want our B anymore. Like we don't want it to be red. We want all 5 of them to be red except one. One of them is going to be green. Okay? Well, we can override it. Okay? All we have to do, I'll back out of this. All we have to do in our tag, okay, is go into our B and then do what? Font color equals, and then let's say it's yellow or green. Okay, close that, and then down here we close our font, right? So now this one is going to be green. Because remember, it reads it from top to bottom, and then when it gets to here, it's gonna like paint over the previous attribute up here, red. Okay, does that make sense? So that's how that part works. Now again, that's all of these CSS attributes are inside that HTML page. Let's go to something more efficient. Okay, remember I showed you guys this, the dash code. All of these are CSS attributes. Okay. And these are in a separate CSS file. So let me show you how that works. Okay, I showed you guys how to save a CSS file. So let's say we just saved it as format.css like I showed you before. And then I put in, very typical of what you just saw before. And then in our web page, like home, it shouldn't be home.css, right? It should be home.html because this is the HTML page. And then notice here it says link REL. REL stands for relationship. And then it says style sheet. So HTML is like, hey, that's a style sheet. And ooh, it's going to be a text CSS type. Notice we define the type here. So make sure you define the type. And then href. Remember, href is a link. And it says, hey, we're going to go look for this CSS link. And make sure that that CSS file is in the same folder, like neighbors, in the same folder as your home.html file. Okay, and then it's going to apply all those settings to this sentence when you use the bold key. So this is very beneficial because you could have home.html, you could have hobbies.html, like mykitten.html, and then you, as long as you put in this top like link relationship part, then whenever you use bold in all of those pages, it's going to be this for bold. Okay, does that make sense? So you see how it's very beneficial? Like you change it once and it can change in multiple pages, multiple times, the format. That's why, you know, when you make like a MySpace or a Blogger, and you know how you can change the color and you click on the color and it changes everything? Or if you change a color and all the text of all your pages change, that's how it does it, because it's efficient with CSS like this. Okay? So you can also do custom. Okay? Let's say we want our bolds to be normal bold, but we have, let's say, your name. Like for me, my branding name is Mouseflip, and each of you guys have your own. Whenever I have the word Mouseflip, I want it to be a custom, like I want it to be certain attributes. Okay, so let's say my new style, that's like .mouseflip, and then I want it to be bold. I want it to be this color. And then I could have it to be underlined and all these little things, right? So then, when I use it in my HTML body, all I have to do is hit P class, okay? P class equals, and then I would do my new style or mouse flip, and then the text, and then close P. And then, so every time I put in a custom made P class, it's going to apply those settings that I had. Because remember before we were saying, okay, when you use the B, when you use H1, when you use the underline, those are already predefined. But if you, like mouse flip, like I want it to be a certain style, you can just do it this way.